Hi there, welcome back. We're at week 4 in English 75B. I'm here to give you some background information about our writer for this Wednesday, Abraham Cahan, a really important Jewish American writer that really helps to fill out the diversity of the American literary canon. Remember, that's canon, Canon. And that means the collection of works of art or of literature or writing that are considered of significance. Um, what belongs and what doesn't belong in the canon is something that's always up for debate, and I certainly won't be able to resolve this in any way in this class, but it's good to be aware of. Abraham Cahan certainly deserves to be in there because he is a significant writer, and structurally, he's very, very good at what he does, but he also brings to mind all kinds of important growing themes in American literature: immigration, the Jewish American experience, um, generational generational ties to old world culture. All of this comes to play in The Imported Bridegroom, which is a PDF that you can look at under our and read off of our learning materials for week 4. Now, I also posted a video, a short introduction to Judaism, and I strongly suggest you look at it, even if you think you know a bit about the Jewish religion and the Jewish culture as it relates historically and also in the United States. So, background information starting on him. Come on, buddy. So, like many Jewish Americans, he was born in Eastern Europe, kind of on that Asian edge in Lithuania, to an Orthodox Jewish family. Now, Orthodox Judaism is a much more traditionalist and socially conservative form of Judaism. And if you spend any time in Los Angeles or other big urban centers, you may see people walking around that, if they're men, they're wearing black suits and white shirts, and they're wearing a yarmulke, a small little hat or a skull cap in the back, and they may have curls and a beard. That is an indicator of Orthodox Judaism. For women, they will often have their hair covered in a scarf or will be wearing a wig. It comes from their interpretation of the Old Testament and of another one of their holy books, the Torah, that has certain edicts for modesty in dress and appearance. And, we see head coverings being an important part of lots of different faiths. We see it also in the Muslim religious tradition. We also see it in, a lot of different Christian sisterly orders or orders of nuns. So in some ways, there are some intersections in that modesty. And if we think about Judaism and Christianity and Islam, what's important for us to keep in mind here is that they're all considered Mosaic faiths. They all take the origins of their religions, of their faith, from the Old Testament, from the time of Moses. After Moses, after the Old Testament, that's where their particular faiths diverge. But there's a lot in common. Okay. Wow, I just said more than I thought I would. Now, like many European Jews, there was prosecution and persecution, rather, happening in lots of different parts of Europe. The term ghetto actually refers to a place where only Jews could live and could not live anywhere else in the city of Venice in the 16th century. They were also persecuted, and the whole idea of anti-Semitism is still really alive and well. So a lot of these Jews fled from their homelands because either they were poor or things were just not hospitable for them there. He settles in New York, and he helps to found this really important newspaper, the Jewish Daily Forward. Now, it's written in Yiddish, And Yiddish is actually a language that a lot of Jews speak, especially the ones in Europe, that comes from an early version of German. And if you know quite a bit of German, you may get some intersection of both the way it sounds and also some of the diction. Grammatically, structurally, it's pretty similar. They do have their own specialized vocabulary that a lot of Germans don't know, though. Anyway, it's a great language. It's lots of fun, but it's written in Yiddish. So here we see like linguistic diversity and cultural diversity continuing to increase in the United States. And it was a progressive newspaper too. He was a very progressive individual and was also one of the early advocates for labor rights. And he, like many other Jewish Americans or Jewish immigrants new to the country, worked in the garment industry. Some of you might know that horrible historical event, the Triangle Shirt Factory fire that took place in New York. He reported on that, and he, with his advocacy in the Jewish Daily Forward, helped to change labor law in the United States to make things safer for working people. And we should all be really thankful for that. So anyway, his most famous novel is called The Rise of David Lavinsky. And it's this coming of age, almost Horatio Algier American success story novel about a Jew who becomes successful in the United States. And because he's considered to be kind of an originary or early Jewish immigrant writer in the United States, he sends these ripples throughout the 19th and into the 20th century. Super important and super influential. And he's also influenced later writers like Philip Roth and Saul Bellow, who were also Jewish American. The one novel that Philip Roth that he wrote, that probably sticks out in some people's minds, is he had one called Portnoy's Complaint. And it was about a man trying to go to therapy to overcome the challenges he had with his relationships. And there's a lot of Jewish culture involved in it. And it's also really hilarious. He's sexually repressed on one hand, and he doesn't know how to talk to women, but at the same time, he can't stop masturbating. I know it sounds crazy, but this is like a book of the month club thing. Like, my Sicilian grandparents had this book on their shelf. It blew me away. It's really, really funny. If you're interested in other like elements of Jewish humor, you might want to take a look at, say, movies by the Coen brothers. Some of you may know them from movies like No Country for Old Men, The Big Lebowski, which does have a character who converts to Judaism in it. But if you want a sense of what it's like growing up to be Jewish, you may want to look at A Serious Man, who follows a Jewish family living up in the Minnesota area. And the boy of the family is going through the rite of passage to adulthood called the bar mitzvah. And they have to present themselves at the temple, they have to sing in Hebrew, and they have to interpret the Torah. And it's a wonderful ceremony. And they have it for women now too, called the bat mitzvah. If you ever get a chance to see one, they're great. Everybody was jealous of my friends that got bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs because they got to have a great big party in a hotel somewhere. It was a really high rolling thing, but it was wonderful, a wonderful event. And anyway, some of those Coen brother movies can help fill in some of those gaps for you. But watch the video. That'll kind of give you the larger kind of global story of Judaism. Also, he was a socialist. Some people who don't know what that means think it's a dirty word. But, he was instrumental in helping workers increase their rights as workers and to demand safety reforms so they didn't die because their employers were too cheap or too cruel. Now, if you spent time in Los Angeles or maybe in parts of Brooklyn, New York. In Los Angeles, if you're near the Fairfax district, there is an Orthodox Jewish community there, and you may see people dressed like this who are these contemporary adherents to this particular brand, this particular strain of Judaism. And there I talked about the black suits. This is part of their religious observance, wearing these outfits. Sometimes they wear these circular hats, the men called the kippah. And you can see the woman's wearing her scarf too. So again, part of their religious expression and observance. And here's, looks like a ceremony. It might be in Israel. I can't tell if that's the Israeli flag in the back. But here they are wearing yarmulkes. I know phonetically it doesn't look like that. But again, this is another expression of their faith. So just to give you a little idea of ways in which, even though they are American, in some ways they are still keeping some pretty distinguishable, visual markers of their faith. And the United States is better for it. People of all faiths are welcome, and it helps to keep us understanding and also open-minded. And we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but we are almost out of time on this one. So I believe that is my last slide. Make sure you watch the video before you start doing the reading. That'll be helpful. Some terms will come up, such as treifa. Treifa means food that is not prepared according to Judaistic law. You might know the word kosher. This doesn't seem kosher. We use that kind of broadly to mean this doesn't feel right, but it really means prepared as dictated by the laws of the Old Testament. So those two terms should help you out a little bit. Other than that, enjoy the ride and think about the immigrant experience as it's being portrayed from one generation to another. And if you come from a family of recent immigrants in the last generation or two, you might want to ask yourself, in what ways is their immigration story or the relationship between those generations similar to what you experienced? In what ways is it different? The immigrant story is one of the most powerful stories in American literature. So I hope you enjoy it.